Almost every picture that we see on the web or printed materials are all put together in computer. In a broad view for graphic design, there are two types of graphics: raster graphic and vector graphics. I'll explain this with the help of two most common software, namely Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator. Fundamentally, raster graphics forms an image using colored tiny dots, lining them one after another, and then form a picture. Whereas vector graphics form an image by using a series of coordinate 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot, and then link them out with curves or lines and all the arc. That's the basic idea. Very simple, right? Yes, but we are not done yet. Though raster graphics stores image with all pixels attributes, why are there so many types of raster graphics file format? Same for vector graphic also. Well, that is because there are also other factors that affect the file size, the image quality, and the efficiency of a graphic file. There are a handful of this format we are more familiar with, like the GIF, the JPEG, the PNG, the bitmap, okay? And a few we might heard of, but not as common, like SVG, AI, PSD, and EPS, and even TIFF. So what are their differences and when to use which? Let's run through a few of these common graphic files format and then learn what are they actually meant for, without being too technical, of course. The first one we'll start looking at is BMP, bitmap. Bitmap store raster graphic data by using color-coded info of each pixel on each row. It is usually uncompressed. Bitmap is used by Microsoft Windows by default, and bitmap is also simple and basic that it can be displayed by any program script directly without the need of this thing called graphic adapter. But saving raster graphic pixel by pixel is actually a waste of a lot of storage. For example, if there's a big chunk of area with the same color, there's no need to repeat the color information every single pixel. So a better way for this is actually to instruct the computer, hey, repeat the same colors until a pixel that change to another color. Okay, this way you can save some graphics file size. This becomes the basis of graphic file compression. Most graphic files are compressed so that they can be sent across the internet very quickly. Some compression techniques save file size but still preserve all the necessary information in an image. This is called lossless compression. Another type of compression, you can save more file size but on the expense of the image quality. This is known as lossy compression. GIF, GIF. GIF format was first published in the 1987 by CompuServe. It only supports up to 256 color, but it has its own beauty. Okay? You can manipulate the maximum colors to reduce the file size, and also you can pick some of the colors and turn them transparent. Okay, as part of the image block can be seen through the background. JPEG, JPEG. JPEG format does not have this transparency capability. However, JPEG supports millions of colors typically. JPEG saves its graphic in a very unique way. Okay, it takes one pixel and then compare with the pixel surrounding it with the ratio of 2 to 1 and all the way to 100 to 1. Okay, pixel with the same of the original were then deleted, okay, because they are deemed redundant. This is called lossy compression method. This compression method can compress down a file size a lot by 50% all the way to 95% of the original image file size. And also it loads very quickly for viewing on the expense of image quality, of course. So in our human language, JPEG actually allows us to compress the image a lot. The smaller the file size, the faster it loads, but the crappier the image quality is. Also, because of lossy compression, if a compressed JPEG file is used for a design work, and then you edit something and then have it compressed again into another JPEG file, the image quality worsens every time your image is saved. Therefore, JPEG is only good to use as the final image file for final publishing on the web, okay? Because for good file size management. However, if we want to maintain the image quality integrity, we should not use JPEG, but in a non-compressed format like TIFF, okay? Especially when we work on a print design work. TIFF format is not really suitable for web because it's not compressed by default. Not only the graphic itself, TIFF also stores extra things like printing information such as the spacing, the layout, the density, and even alpha channel. It also takes layers. TIFF are more commonly set in CMYK color spectrum, okay, which is actually meant for print. Okay, therefore, the file size is often huge. Okay, however, this is one of the best and the most common raster graphic format for print media. So you might ask, is there a raster graphic format for web that actually works like TIFF? Okay, which can store millions of color spectrum, lossless compression, and also support alpha channel transparency capability, not like the pixelated GIF? Yes, actually PNG is the file format. Because of all this capability that JPEG does not have, PNG file size is generally slightly larger than JPEG of the same image. Well, it actually depends on how the image composition is. The simpler your image composition is, the smaller the PNG file size tends to be. It's one of the most popular file format across the web now. Next, we'll look at the best image file format used by your digital camera. It's called RAW, R-A-W. It stores unprocessed and processed data captured by digital camera in two separate files. So this is the highest quality possible that we can get directly off the digital camera source to edit an image in editing software like your Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop, okay, in a non-destructive way. Okay, you can tweak, you can change all the settings like exposure, color hue, color tint, the saturation, and even the curves, play around with it and so on without actually damaging the original image. You get to preserve the maximum quality possible. However, raw file size, because of all this, is actually huge, just like TIFF. There are also proprietary formats like the PSD. PSD is the default Photoshop document format. It does not only store raster images but also all the fully editable effects from Photoshop's tools and utility settings in multiple layers. It can be exported into any types of image file format, including all the raster format that we just mentioned. PSD is also usually known as the working files for the artwork in the design industry. Let's look at the more common vector graphic format now. Since this is the artwork made up of points, lines, curves, all are based upon mathematical equation rather than a solid color square pixel. Okay, this means that no matter how large or how small or how details you zoom in on the image, you blow it up as big as a jumbo jet, the lines, the curves, the points, everything will remain smooth. So vector graphics is actually perfect for logos, shapes, okay, typography, basically all the clear edge geometry object that I show here. The most popular file format for vector graphic is AI, the working file of Adobe Illustrator. You can have your vector artwork sorted out in layers, group them together, and then each point and lines that connected to one another point still can be easily altered and control. The fully editable effects will be preserved in AI files as well. This is equivalent to Photoshop PSD for vector graphics. Because of the way vector graphic is being generated, the graphic files are usually much smaller as long as there's not too many points for a picture. So is there a vector graphic file format that we can use for the web browsers? Yes, that will be SVG. Because of its simplicity, it is the most efficient file format for logos, icons, and clear edge clip arts. So at this point, you might ask, which is better than raster or vector graphics? The answer is definitely not one superior over the other. Okay, that's not the right way to look at this. They each have its own purpose and then the usage. Vector graphics can never do a photographic image. Even if you manage to form a photographic picture with tiny vector square or circle, that's just not the right way to do it, okay? Unless you specifically want to make a half-tone effect graphic that resembles this photographic image and then have it put up to a 10-story high building. Raster or pixel graphics are actually meant for photographic image purpose. They will appear as perfect when they are being made properly and then presented at a high enough DPI screen or high enough DPI printout. So can we have both image type in one single file format? Actually yes, you can place a raster photographic image into Adobe Illustrator 2 while mixing up with all your vector logos, all your icons, the text and everything, just like this for the design. The 5 cent image is actually a raster graphic in TIFF with transparency. It's placed over this tulip graphic clip art and all the rays, they are all vectors. Or simply do it the other way around. Place a vector logo into a Photoshop working file, just like these event web banners that I did many years ago. I can even manipulate this vector calligraphy headline to make some part of the words that look like it's actually behind this kneeling man. In fact, that is what we graphic designers do all the time. So we simply need to make the right decision on which will be the right app to use for what kind of artwork that we will be working on. A basic guideline for you is if you are doing a print media artwork like a flyer, a poster, a newsletter, then use Adobe Illustrator because the fonts, the vector logos, printed out, everything will be very clear and very sharp. If you are going to work on a book, then use InDesign. Okay, that would be the right tool to use. InDesign does not have as much detail level of control just like what Illustrator can do, but InDesign manage multiple pages and the layout better. If you are working on a screen media like a web banner or social media banner, simply place the vector logo or clip art into Photoshop. Okay, it will be treated just like a graphic element. If you have not rasterized it, meaning that you convert it into a bitmap graphic, you can even edit it anytime in Illustrator and then have whatever revisions that you make in Illustrator update in Photoshop. One thing we don't do is we don't use Photoshop to make big print artwork like A0 size poster. Not only the Photoshop artwork files will be ended up extremely large, okay, running it will make your computer work very hard. You will definitely feel the lag. Imagine every single effect you do. You get that spinning icons and have to wait for 15 to 30 seconds or even 1 minute. Or even worse, your Photoshop would just crash. Okay, many of us actually experienced this before. We actually learned it the hard way. So do it the right way. Plan your media list a bit. Make each design elements with its intended app. Okay, then put them together in the right app. Be it Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign or even Premiere or After Effects if you're making videos like what you're watching now, or an app prototype design, then use XD. I have a course of that. Alright, that's all. Okay, hope you get a good understanding on raster and vector graphics now and which file format and the right tool to use them on. Thanks for watching. If you like my video, please click like and subscribe to Uncle Teach You channel. See you in the next video.